Hello everybody and welcome back to another modelled writing video. Today we are going to look at two task 2 questions. So these are the essay style questions and we've got two different topics to dive into today. We'll be thinking about how to plan these essays, what tips to bear in mind to get those top band scores, and then of course we'll do the writing as if we were in the exam itself. So if you've booked the IELTS exam, this is a great place to practice. If you just want more information on how to answer task 2, then you've come to the right place as well. Okay, so let's get started and we'll dive into our first topic. So, the first question we're going to look at is family. Popular topic that comes up, so definitely one to familiarize yourself with. Okay, let's read the question together. There is an increasing trend around the world to have a small family rather than a large family. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of having a small family rather than a large family? Okay, so we're being asked, let's have a think about this question. We're being asked to state the advantages and the disadvantages of a small family. Okay, so let's have a think now about some ideas. Advantages of having a small family is the first idea that comes to my head, of course, the cost, monetary reasons. So it is cheaper to have a smaller family, even though there are child benefits in some countries. I don't think they quite balance out the costs that occur with having children. And we can talk about all the different kinds of costs. You know, there's childcare, entertainment, food, all of these things. So we'll dive into details about that. And then let's think about the disadvantages now. I'm thinking about a smaller family means that there's less people to turn to in terms of perhaps a crisis or for advice, for support. Um, and that's can be tied in with the fact that children might be affected by not having other siblings, and this could um, affect them a little bit in this influential time of their lives. Okay, so let's now dive into the plan now that we've thought about the question. So the easiest way, the way to answer this question would be to state the advantages in one paragraph and then state the disadvantages in the next paragraph. Okay, so the main advantage, let's do advantage here, add for advantage. These are just notes, so you don't have to create full sentences. Cost, and we'll talk about childcare, entertainment. And was making sure that we're spelling correctly all throughout because that's a big part of the criteria for the top band scores. Childcare, entertainment, food, of course, and in this time we have a cost of living crisis, so all of this is even higher than before. Okay, so that's the main advantage, and like with every essay, we will state the topic sentence, then we will use examples and explain a bit further, and always link back to the question. Okay, disadvantages now. Let's dive in. There are less support, perhaps in times of health. there's no one to turn to. If when parents get older, there's less people to care for them. And also, um, there is there's a we could mention about children having maybe we can mention children being affected by having no siblings. We'll see how we go. Fewer siblings. Okay, so our conclusion then, we want to sum up what we have spoken about in the essay. So, even though there is a bigger cost to having children nowadays, big families do provide more support, perhaps. Okay. And then we'll state a few points that we've mentioned in the essay just to summarize everything. Okay, so a plan is really important. You've got 40 minutes to answer this question, so you really want to lay out your ideas, be confident before going into this. This is really going to help you when it comes to the write-up, which we'll look at now. Okay, so this, we can pretend this is the IELTS exam, and we're ready to start writing. What do we do first? You might think, well, we need to do a really important skill, which is paraphrase the statement. So the statement is, there is an increasing trend around the world to have a small family rather than a large family. So we need to paraphrase, in other words, write it in our own words. Okay, so there is an increasing trend. So we could say currently there is a rise in the number of small families around the world or globally, families globally, than big families. Okay, lovely. So now we are going to state what this essay is going to look at. So we're going to outline our structure. This essay will examine the benefits and drawbacks, different words. We don't want to say advantages, disadvantages. So we're saying benefits and drawbacks of having a smaller family. It's difficult to find a different word for family, so we can keep it in the introduction here. Currently, there is a rise in the number of small families globally than big families. This essay will examine the benefits and drawbacks of having a smaller family. Okay, let's dive into the advantages. Okay, so we can start with a phrase like the biggest advantage. These opening phrases are really important to structure our essays. The biggest advantage or the main advantage, the main benefits. Advantage, we haven't used that yet. We don't want to repeat ourselves either, so we're trying to use different words as much as we can. The biggest advantage of having less people in the family is the cost. Okay, now we can go in and explain our point. So we want to say that so many things are the endless cost of living. Everything requires money going out. So we can state that. We could say there is an ever-growing list of outgoings in today's society. There's always something that we can buy, like food, clothing, entertainment. Oh, when we're spelling correctly. Entertainment, education. That's, I know in the UK that is becoming more expensive. So there is an ever-growing list of outgoings in today's society, and many of them are increasing in price. Okay. For example, we can talk about the situation with this increase in price. The current cost of living crisis means that perhaps, oh, we've missed the S there, crisis, means that food banks are being frequented, which means used more than ever before. And we could talk about the bills, perhaps, and households now struggle to pay their heating bills. Okay, so therefore, or maybe yeah, therefore, for families considering whether they want to expand and have children, cost cost is the main consideration. Oh, consideration. A smaller family. Let's link it back to the question now. A smaller family will have less outgoings and be more financially stable. Okay, shall we have a read back and see how it sounds? The biggest advantage of having less people in the family is the cost. There is an ever-growing list of outgoings. We've used outgoings here, so we're making sure we're not repeating ourselves. Expenses. It's easy to use the same words, but we want to use different ones to show our breadth of knowledge. There is an ever-growing list of outgoings in today's society. Food, clothing, entertainment, education, and many of them are increasing in price. For example, the current cost of living crisis means that food banks are being frequented more than ever before, and households now struggle to pay the heating bills. Therefore, for families considering whether they want to expand and have children, cost is the main consideration. A smaller family will have less expenses and be more financially stable. Linking back to the question there, making sure that we've answered all parts. Brilliant. Okay, so that's our main advantage. However, now we can move on to the disadvantages. So we could say something like, on the other hand, or however, although. Synonyms like that are great to open this the disadvantages paragraph. We could state the advantages do not show the full picture, do not present the whole story, maybe. And we want to state that there are less people to turn to in times of need, which is really important for a family. There are disadvantages, there are negatives to having a small family. The primary or the main one being that there are simply less people to turn to in times of need. So there are just fewer people to help and offer support, which is really important, we want to argue. So let's dive into this now a bit more. So whether this means in terms of care, that's a big one. When people get older, they might need more care required, and perhaps we could talk about the cost of care homes being extremely high. So and just the fact that you might not want to send a loved one to a care home. You might want to look after them yourselves. It might be nicer for you. So the more people, then the shared responsibility, and leads to a sort of happier balance then in the family. So whether this means in terms of care, even advice, or I don't know, some families run businesses or helping running a business. A smaller family or a bigger family means that we've used means provides more members to offer support in various areas. Okay, we can zoom in on care because that's a good example of how this really impacts families. So care is a huge factor. And we can talk about the cost with care homes requiring a good word to use instead of a high amount of or a big amount of money. You can use requiring an exuberant amount of money in some cases, not all the time, but definitely in some cases. In this case, a bigger family will be more equipped or better equipped to handle the situation, we want to say, be better equipped to share the financial responsibility, or alternatively, they could share care duties. So if they don't want to send their loved ones to a home, they can share care duties, and there's more of them to split that responsibility. Okay, so in this case, we can flip it on their head. Yes, so in other words, if parents have more children, bigger families, then they have more chance of being looked after when they're older. So in other words, the more children parents have, a couple has, the more likely they will be, they will be looked after when they are older. They are older. And now we could briefly touch on just general support that a big family provides. So this feeds into also having more people to turn to for emotional support, perhaps, and different opinions. So it's good to have not just one side of a story, lots of people's views, I think is beneficial, which is beneficial. Different opinions and skills, which is beneficial for everyone in the family. So, for example, one person might be skilled in tech and another one in sports, and then everyone has different opinions and skills to bring to the table here. Okay, let's have a read of this back. On the other hand, the advantages do not show the full picture. There are negatives. Oh, we've repeated ourselves. This is why it's so important to go back and check. There are negatives to having a small family. The primary one being that there are simply less people to turn to in times of need. Whether this means in terms of care, advice, or running a business, a bigger family provides more members to offer support in various areas. Care is a huge factor, with care homes requiring an exuberant amount of money in some cases. Good word. In this case, a bigger family will be better equipped to share the financial responsibility. Alternatively, they could share care duties if they don't want to send loved ones to a care home. In other words, the more children a couple has, the more likely they will be looked after when they are older. This feeds into also having more people to turn to for emotional support and different opinions and skills. Let's get rid of emotional support, different opinions and skills, which is beneficial for everyone in the family. Brilliant. Okay, so we've stated our topic sentence and we've said some examples, and then we've linked back to the question. Excellent. Now it's time for our conclusion, just to summarize what we've been talking about. So we can say something like, even though the expense of having a large family or we could say the money saved from having a smaller family overall, perhaps there is money that can be saved when a family is smaller due to less outgoings. But there are still, nevertheless, I like that word, nevertheless, we'll make sure that we spell it right, disadvantages to having a smaller family, including less people to care for each other, like we've stated in the family units. I know we've repeated family a lot. It's quite difficult to find a synonym. Maybe we could just say in the units. That wants to be two separate words. Okay. So let's just read this back. Overall, there is money that can be saved when having family. There is money that can be saved when a family is smaller due to less outgoings. Maybe we can add, this is the main benefit. There are still, nevertheless, disadvantages, including to this, including less people to care for each other in the unit. Okay, so looking back, we've got our paraphrased introduction stating what our essay will look at. Paragraph 1 about the advantages, paragraph 2 about the disadvantages, and then we've finished off with our conclusion, just summarizing what we've been talking about. So now it's time to just check how many words. So we're looking for a minimum of 250 words. So So let's see what this comes to. So this essay came to 303 words, so an achievable amount of words there, minimum of 250. We've got 303, which I think is a good amount. As long as you're following the structure and like that we talked about throughout the essay, we've got our variety of sentences. Naturally, I just think you'll write a variety. Variety is best here. And we've got some really top level vocabulary. We've got a logical structure. This is all, these are all really good points to bear in mind for the top bands. Okay, brilliant. So with that being said then, I think we're ready to dive into our next topic, which is going to be all about smoking. Okay, so a smoking question could come up and good to be aware of it. And we'll look at in what way should we answer this question today. Okay, so smoking not only harms the smoker, but also those who are nearby. Therefore, smoking should be banned in public places. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay. So initially, what I'm looking at is this phrase here. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So they want us to state whether we are going to fully agree. We can do. We can agree and disagree. So both. Or we can completely disagree with this. So we want to state where we stand on this topic. And I always say, even though you might believe something of yourself personally, that doesn't mean that that's the easiest to argue for this essay. So have a think about what examples you can think of, what's the easiest way to argue this, and go with that. That might be different from what you personally feel, and that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so let's think. Smoking not only harms the smoker, but also those who are nearby. Therefore, smoking should be banned in public places. Well, the first thing that comes to my head is the harm to the smoker and to those nearby. So we can talk about the damage that smoking can cause and secondhand smoke as well. Tell you what, we can go to our plan here. Paragraph 1 and 2 in conclusion. So yes, smoking can harm cause not only to the smoker, but through secondhand smoke. There's correlations with things like lung cancer and other diseases, heart disease, respiratory diseases. So therefore, it should be banned in public places. So I'm going to agree, I think, with this statement. I think it's the easiest way to argue this. So let's agree. We can talk about the health of the smoker, lung disease, for example, secondhand smoke as well. Many examples, and then we will link it back to the fact that so therefore for these reasons smoking should be banned in public places. Okay, a second argument that I'm thinking about is not a really obvious one at first, but that maybe the environmental impact. So I'm going to agree with both of my paragraphs, and I'm going to talk about the environmental impact. So the impact of the carbon dioxide, that cigarettes releasing harmful chemicals, and I know it's small, but it all contributes to global warming that we know is a problem nowadays. Um, and this links with also the chance of littering. So if smoking is allowed in public places, then our immediate areas will be potentially littered with cigarette butts, for example. So that's negatively impacts our daily lives. So for that reason, smoking should be banned again. Okay, so our conclusion will just restate what we've been talking about in the essay, and in summary, yes, agree, smoking should be banned for the reasons mentioned, and we'll, in the write-up, we'll mention a few. There we go. Okay, so we've got a clear plan for this essay. We want to agree throughout, and a plan is essential to stay on track. So we don't want to sway from the plan and start going on a new tangent. No, we want to stick to our ideas here. Okay then, so let's go to the write-up. We've got a lot of ideas to think about here. And the first thing that we, as always, that we do is paraphrase the statement. So let's have a look. Smoking not only harms the smoker, but also those who are nearby. Therefore, smoking should be banned in public places. Okay, so we could say that some claim, or you could open it, it is argued, it is believed, it is reported. Some claim that smoking cigarettes does not just harm the smoker themselves. It's difficult to find a synonym for smoking, so it's okay to keep it here. Does not just harm the smoker themselves, but also those around them. For this reason, it is argued that smoking should not be allowed in areas open to everyone instead of public places, areas open to everyone. Okay, let's then seamlessly go into what we're going to argue in this essay. So we could say, I completely agree, or agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I absolutely agree. It's asking for our opinion with this statement. A place open to the public, open to adults and children, should not allow or should not allow or encourage smoking. Let's read this back. Some claim that smoking cigarettes does not just harm the smoker themselves, but also those around them. For this reason, it is argued that smoking should not be allowed in areas open to everyone. I completely agree with this statement. A place open to adults and children should not encourage smoking. And maybe we can add, this essay will go into depth into the reasons for this view. There we go. Okay then, so we want to open up with our first paragraph and talk about the primary reason. And on the plan, we had noted down the detrimental effects to health. So we can say that the primary reason why smoking should not or should be banned. It's okay to repeat the question here. So we're always using a topic sentence to clearly state what we are arguing. The primary reason why smoking should be banned in public areas or places, public zones, perhaps, is the fact it is extremely detrimental to the smoker's health and additionally the people around the smoker through second hand smoke, which is just as damaging. There are studies to say that this is just as bad. Okay then, a big opening sentence there to really set the tone for this paragraph. Let's go into some detail now. Studies have shown for many years now the correlation, the trend, the relationship, the correlation between smoking and lung cancer. Yes, the lung cancer. And in fact, actually, cigarette packets have horrible, disturbing pictures on them to show the potential health consequences. So we can say that this is public knowledge. As packets show disturbing images of the health consequences of cigarettes smoking. There we go. So everybody knows this is public knowledge. So the evidence is hard to argue. People can't really fight it. And smoking affects. Smoking perpetuates, which means makes worse. Maybe perpetuates other. Oh, perpetuates. Oh. Perpetuates. We're making sure our spelling is spot on here. Really important. Perpetuates other diseases such as heart disease, resulting in millions of premature deaths, which means people who are dying before they are really were going to if they hadn't have smoked, resulting in millions of premature deaths each year. For this, due to this, it is clear that smoking should not be permitted or allowed, be permitted as the effects are catastrophic, are extremely damaging. Population. There we go. Due to this, it's clear smoking should not be permitted in public as the effects are extremely... Okay, let's have a read back and we'll see what we think of this. The primary reason why smoking should be banned in public zones is the fact it is extremely detrimental to the smoker's health and additionally the people around the smoker through secondhand smoke, which is just as damaging. Studies have shown for many years now the correlation between smoking and lung cancer. This is public knowledge as packets show disturbing images of health consequences of cigarette smoking. Maybe we could say we don't need that if we say as packets show disturbing images of the health consequences. Yes, yeah, we've made it clear what we're talking about there, so that's okay. The evidence is hard to argue, and smoking perpetuates other. Oh, we've got two other. So important to edit, as you can see. Other diseases such as heart disease, resulting in millions of premature deaths each year. Due to this, it is clear that smoking should not be permitted in public, as the effects are perhaps undeniably damaging to the population. Okay, so we've got our topic sentence, we've got our examples, and then we are linking it back to the question at the end there, staying on track. I think that's strong. Okay, let's now dive into our second paragraph of the body, and we are going to agree, this time with an environmental spin. So let me show you how we're going to do that. We could say an additional argument is not an obvious one at first, because maybe it's not as obvious as the health is not as obvious, we can say that, as health concerns. But the environmental impact is one that smoking negatively contributes to. The environmental impact is one that smoking negatively contributes to. Okay. Right, so let's dive into this a bit more and we'll explain our point. Cigarettes release. Oh, cigarettes. Oh, there's an E there. Always checking for spelling. Cigarettes release harmful chemicals. Harmful chemicals that not only harm our body, or we've used harm, not only seep into our body, but also the air we breathe. So we're trying to argue that it still affects, even if we take health out of the topic, out of the conversation, the environmental impact is still it's still there. This in turn contributes to the CO2 levels, perhaps. And the bigger global warming crisis. And the bigger global warming crisis. There we go. This crisis is affecting, we want to say that this affects everyone globally, whether you are a smoker or not. Humans globally, whether you are a smoker or not. So everyone is affected here. Let's go into the littering side of it now. Not to mention the littering of cigarettes. Cigarette butts, which are the ends. These directly impact our neighborhood and affect directly impacts our neighborhood and leaves a maybe we could say these directly impact our neighborhood. There we go. Okay, so now we sort of want to link it all back together. Maybe we could mention children actually. So these issues stated are linked with the fact that children in early stages of development can be impacted health-wise by smoking, by smoke, and also might grow up to believe that smoking is acceptable. So they might take on this mindset that smoking's okay, you know, inside, in places like restaurants and where everybody gathers. And also might grow up to believe that to have a mindset that smoking, or grow up to adopt a mindset that smoking is acceptable when it should be banned publicly. So this is, we want to bring it back to the question now. Publicly. Okay, let's have a read back. An additional argument is not as obvious as health concerns, but the environmental impact is one that smoking negatively contributes to. Cigarettes release harmful chemicals that not only seep into our body, but maybe our bodies, but also the air we breathe. This in turn contributes to the CO2 levels and the bigger global warming crisis. This situation is affecting humans globally, whether you're a smoker or not. Maybe we'll see whether we want to keep that bit. Not to mention the littering of cigarette butts. These negatively this negatively impacts our neighborhood. These issues stated are linked with the fact that children in early stages of development can be impacted health-wise by smoke, and also might grow up to adopt a mindset that smoking is acceptable when it should be banned publicly for the reasons stated. There we go. So now we just want to do a conclusion to round everything off. In conclusion then, for the above reasons outlined or discussed, it is clear, we want to be very, very clear, the negative or the detrimental impacts of smoking, both for health and the environment. Environment. Both for health, let's say for health, the environment, and inevitably children. Smoking, therefore, should be banned in public places. We're answering the question again, making sure that we are stating our opinions so clearly. So society can try to curb these harmful maybe consequences. Or actually, I think we'll just leave it there for now. Smoking, therefore, should be banned in public places. Okay, then let's have a look at what we are talking about in terms of words. So, to my calculations, that has come to 327 words. So, over the minimum of 250, but still in an achievable range here. And as long as you're following the structure that we've discussed today, then you should be absolutely fine with your essay reaching that 250 word limit. Okay, so we've talked about a lot today, but I hope that's been helpful. Thank you so much for coming along today, and hopefully we'll see you next time to discuss some more topics. Thank you.